Hello, students. Today we are going to learn about wheels and axles. So this is another type of simple machine, and we know that simple machines help people do work. They make work easier. So I think this is our fifth simple machine. We've learned about inclined planes, wedges, screws, levers, and now we're going to learn about wheels and axles. All right. So a wheel is a circular object, sort of like a round disc, circle shape, that rotates around its center. Wheels often have an axle in the middle. An axle is a pole. You can see here in this picture. That's the axle here is this bar or pole that holds the wheel in place as the wheel spins around, as the wheel rotates. And wheels make it easier to move heavy loads because they reduce the amount of friction or rubbing. So before wheels and axles were invented, people had to just kind of drag things along. And we know that when we drag things, it creates a lot of rubbing and friction. And then you need more force. And so wheels really reduce the amount of effort and force because they reduce that friction and rubbing. And then down here we have a picture of these are called gears. And gears are wheels with teeth. And those are those little bumps on the gears. All right. So I'm going to read a little bit from this book, Tires, Spokes, and Sprockets, a book about wheels and axles. I'll scoot myself out of the way here. Motorcycles rocket down the road, cars zoom, and big trucks rumble. Along busy streets, bicycles zip over sidewalks, skateboards roll and glide. Wheels, wheels, wheels. Wheels are machines. A wheel is a simple machine. A machine is any tool or device that helps people do work. Wheels help people move quickly from one place to another. Axles. Wheels spin around an axle. An axle is a metal bar or rod that passes through the center of the wheel. So here you can see the axle between the wheels of the skateboard. There's one, two, so two axles here. All car, truck, and bus tires spin on axles. Big wheels and small wheels. Wheels come in all sizes. The amount of weight a wheel has to support often determines how big and sturdy the wheel must be. Sometimes, instead of having large wheels, you can have many small wheels, like roller skates. A tricycle has three wheels, one large wheel in the front and two small ones in the back. The large wheel in the front helps steer the tricycle. The back two support and keep the rider balanced. Gears. Look more closely at a bicycle's back tire. So maybe you could go and look at your bike, examine your bike. The tire holds another smaller metal wheel turning on its axle. The metal wheel is not smooth, it's edged with teeth. This wheel is called a gear. Gears are wheels with teeth. The teeth grip a chain that comes from the bike's pedals. When the rider turns the pedals, the chain moves. Then the gear moves and the tire spins. Sometimes the small metal gears on a bicycle are called sprockets. It's kind of a fun word, sprockets. Clockwise and counterclockwise. Inside a watch or clock, many gears work together. The teeth of one gear fit between the teeth of another. When one gear moves, so does the next. Gears and wheels move in two directions. They can move clockwise, like the hands of a clock, going this way, or they can move in the opposite direction, called counterclockwise. When two gears fit together, each wheel turns in its different direction. Cranks. A crank is a kind of pedal or handle that turns a wheel. The handle of a pencil sharpener is a crank. This is kind of an old-fashioned pencil sharpener. When you turn the wheel or turn the handle, it's called a crank, and it sharpens the pencil. You use a crank when you pedal. So when you pedal, your feet are turning the crank that turns the axle inside, which turns the wheel. A crank turns an egg beater in the kitchen. So this is also kind of an old-fashioned tool, but when you turn this crank, it has beaters on the end. It beats the egg. A crank winds up the line on a fishing reel. So here's another little handle that turns the crank, and it turns the axle within that little wheel on a fishing rod. Belts. Some wheels or gears are connected by belts. The belts can be made of strong rubber or of metal. Wide belts move groceries at the checkout counter. Metal belts move luggage around a carousel at the airport. Big metal belts. Move. Ready, set, go. The soapbox racers are off. The sleek machines head down the hill, turning and twisting, following the course. The wheels spin smoothly on their axles. The riders use steering wheels to guide the machines. Wheels move other wheels. Faster and faster they speed. Not only do wheels help people do work, they can help people have fun too. All right, some fun facts about wheels. A wheel is made in the shape of a circle. A circle is the best shape for moving smoothly and evenly over a surface. Flip over a skateboard. Most axles have 2 wheels, one at each end. A skateboard has 2 axles and 4 wheels. Although the other day I saw this really interesting new skateboard. Well, it's new to me. And it had the skateboard part, and then underneath it just had one really big wheel underneath it. It's like a really thick wheel. I thought, oh, that was really cool. I've never seen those before. All right, doorknobs are wheels too. They turn a small axle that passes through the door. So go examine a door in your house, and that is like a wheel. On one side, it's a wheel, and then there's a bar that goes through to the other side of the door, and that is the axle. So a doorknob is a wheel and axle. The strong metal wires that hold the rubber tire to the axle are called spokes. So if you went to look like at your bike, and you could see those metal wires that are connecting the axle to the tire, spokes. Let's see. Oh, a wheel is a simple machine. When lots of wheels are used together to make one machine or device, it's called a compound machine. So we've been talking a lot about simple machines, and when we put a whole bunch of machines together, you get something called a compound machine or a complex machine. So that would be like a bicycle or car, an airplane, all those things. And belts that move people or packages are sometimes called conveyor belts. They convey or move things from one place to another. All right, here's just another picture of some wheel and axle. So there's our doorknob. A doorknob is a wheel and axle. So that part that you turn with your hand, that's the wheel. And then the axle is the bar that goes through to the other side. It says when you turn the wheel, the rod turns too. So as you turn this, it turns the axle. The wheel is there to make the rod easier to turn. Oh, so the axle is there, and we have the wheel so that we have something to hold on to and turn the doorknob. If it were just the bar, it would be hard for us to kind of hold on to it. And here is a car. So a car would be a compound machine or a complex machine, lots of different parts in there. A steering wheel is another wheel and axle. So the steering wheel is connected to a rod, and when you turn the steering wheel, it turns the rod. So there's the wheel, and the rod is the axle, the pole. And let's see, the rod steers your front wheels where you want them to go. What if your car didn't have a steering wheel? What if you had to steer by grabbing the rod and trying to twist it? It wouldn't be easy, that's for sure. So all cars have steering wheels because the wheel makes it much easier to turn. If it were just a bar that we were trying to like hold onto the bar and twist it, that would be hard to steer. All right, wheels in time, a little history for us. So the earliest forms of transportation did not have axles or wheels. So they would move things and people just by kind of pushing them and dragging them or using horses and people on foot. So dragging an object across a surface creates friction. So lots of rubbing and dragging, friction. And friction makes it difficult for one surface to slide against another. The rougher the surfaces, the more friction there will be between them. More friction means you have to have more force. It's harder. Look, there's a picture here. It says many early drawings show wheels and how they were used long ago. So you can see some wheels and some spokes there. How did wheels help? When wheels were invented, moving heavy objects from place to place became much easier. Early humans realized that to move things more easily, they needed to reduce friction. Rollers were made by placing a number of logs on the ground side by side. So they would place big logs on the ground, and we know logs are circular shape like wheels. The material being transported was laid on top of the logs, and when the load was pulled, the logs rolled and the load moved forward. So as the logs rolled, whatever was on top would slide as they're being rolled. So those rollers, those big logs, reduced friction. But people still looked for a way to move heavy objects using less force. According to some archaeologists, wooden wheels were developed as early as 8000 BC. So let's see, that would be like 10,000 years ago. Oh my goodness. Wheels reduce friction, so objects sitting on wheels can be moved in the same distance with much less force. All right. So as we are moving forward, that was a little bit of history, and now talking about moving forward and technology that we have today. Wheels are used for all kinds of different purposes. Here's a picture of a space shuttle. And we know that space shuttles and aircrafts use wheels for takeoff and landing. So wheels are used in a very important way for taking off and landing with aircrafts. Let's see, here's some more important inventions. Spoked wheels. So wheels used to be kind of solid and then they were very heavy. And people realized, and inventors realized, if they made spokes, they could make the wheel much lighter, much easier to turn. Chariots are another invention where they used wheels, and chariots usually have two wheels there. And then tires. In the early 1900s, the first cars were built and sold. Rubber tires helped the wheels of these early cars to grip the ground and move more safely. Here's some modern wheels. So the wheel and axle is a simple machine, but in today's world, wheels are often part of a complex machine. So a complex machine or a compound machine, again, that means when there's a lot of simple machines used together. And one of the best known uses for wheels and axles is on a car. So we all know that a car has wheels, and we might not know that underneath here, though, there are two axles that are holding the wheels in place. We can also see wheels and axles on trains, of course, on cars, like we just said, and then movies and music on DVDs and CD players. Those are also wheels, so circular shaped, and they spin around. The axle would be the part where you kind of put the CD in. All right, here's some more gears. And there's a kind of a picture, a close-up of how the gears work and how the teeth have to line up like this as they are going around either clockwise or counterclockwise. And down below this caption says the teeth of a set of gears need to match perfectly or they will wear down and break. So when we're putting together these gears, they have to like match up almost, pretty perfectly in order to work. And we also see these gears like on a zipper. And at the end of a zipper, it's also a wedge. It's a simple machine. Okay. Changing gears. So you probably have noticed on your bike, or if a friend or someone nearby you has a bike with gears on it, and you have to you change the gears. So we have simple machines there with bikes. Oh, I thought this was neat. The future of wheels. So people are developing all kinds of new ways to use wheels and axles. And this is a really neat, very futuristic car at the bottom here. It says some concept cars have the ability to lean while turning, kind of like it's like a motorcycle car. I I thought that was pretty neat. And then the Ferris wheel. I did not know this, that George Ferris, that's why we call them Ferris wheels, they were invented by someone named George Ferris in 1859 in Galesburg, Illinois. Let's see, and he had this idea of an observation wheel, and he was inspired by the idea of a bicycle. And his design became known as a Ferris wheel. So that's really neat. So a Ferris wheel is a really big wheel and axle. And one of the largest Ferris wheels in the world today is called the London Eye, and it's in London, England. And it lets riders view the city from 443 feet up in the air, or 135 meters. That is pretty tall. I know I've gone on a Ferris wheel. There's a Ferris wheel in Chicago, on Navy Pier, and a little bit scary to be that high up, but really neat too. All right. If we were in school, we would take a few notes about wheels and axles. So wheels are round discs, often on a pole called an axle. And wheels make it easier to move loads because they reduce friction, so less rubbing. Axles hold the wheels in place and keep them from rolling away. Oh, there goes my wheel. Wheels with teeth are called gears. We have a little picture here of here's my wheel, my axle. And then there's my Ferris wheel, some examples of wheels and axles. A few more examples, a steamroller. So when people are making roads and things like that, they might use a steamroller. Little toy truck. Ooh, if you have some toy trucks or cars at home, turn them over, look on the bottom, see the wheels and axles. A pizza cutter is a wheel. There's the wheel and there's the axle that's holding it together. And a fishing rod. All right, so to recap, wheels and axles. A wheel is a circular object that rotates around its center. Wheels often have an axle in the middle that holds it in place while it rotates. And wheels make it easier to move loads because they reduce friction or rubbing. And wheels with teeth are called gears. So have a look around your home, your yard, your garage. See if you can find some wheels and axles this week. And I will see you again soon.